Welcome to the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast. Like any good marriage, we will debate, evaluate, and sometimes quarrel about how privacy and security impact business in the 21st century.
Hi, Jody Daniels here. I'm the founder and CEO of Red Clover Advisors, a certified women's privacy consultancy. I'm a privacy consultant and certified informational privacy professional providing practical privacy advice to overwhelmed companies.
Hi, I am Justin Daniels. I am a shareholder and corporate M&A and tech transaction lawyer at the law firm Baker Donaldson, advising companies in the deployment and scaling of technology. Since data is critical to every transaction, I help clients make informed business decisions while managing data privacy and cybersecurity risk. And when needed, I lead the Cyber Legal Data Breach Response Brigade.
And this episode is brought to you by Red Clover Advisors. We help companies to comply with data privacy laws and establish customer trust so that they can grow and nurture integrity. We work with companies in a variety of fields, including technology, e-commerce, professional services, and digital media. In short, we use data privacy to transform the way companies do business. Together, we're creating a future where there's greater trust between companies and consumers. To learn more and to check out our best-selling book, Data Reimagined, Building Trust One Bite at a Time, visit redcloveradvisors.com. It's kind of a gray, dreary day here.
It's chilly with the rain.
It is chilly and it's the holiday season. I'm not feeling as excited because it's so cold.
How come you didn't have a hot cup of coffee?
I did, but it didn't work because it's so darn cold. But today we do have a really great, awesome episode. I'm so excited to welcome Natalie LaPorta, who is the Chief U.S. Privacy Officer for Walgreens. She is focused on a wide range of privacy matters that impact U.S. patient and consumer data privacy, including state and federal data privacy compliance, complex contract negotiations, digital privacy, de-identification, AI analytics, and marketing, just to name a few. So Natalie, we are so excited that you are here with us today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
That's your job.
Yes.
You apparently need your hot cup of something, which is not coffee.
I don't drink coffee.
I know.
Yes, I know. So Natalie, can you give us a window into your career journey?
Sure. Yeah. I had probably a kind of a non-traditional route. When I started and graduated out of law school in 2008, 9, it was a bad job market. And I, honestly wasn't sure what I was going to do. I had been working as an intern at Walgreens. And they invited me to stand as a law clerk after I graduated from law school. And so I did that. And I was, still trying to find something else, but it was tough. And I was fortunate enough that an opportunity became available in the compliance department. And at that point, it was a privacy role in the compliance department, but there was no privacy legal really focus at Walgreens. The privacy legal work was kind of done within the various commercial legal business partner practices. But I thought, this is legal adjacent and I'm going to learn HIPAA and I'm going to get what I can out of this role. And it was interesting because I thought, no one cares about HIPAA and privacy. Like I can't do this forever, right? I've got to find a way out. But I found myself really partnering with the other subject matter expert lawyers and advising them on HIPAA. And I think it kind of became their go-to, right? Because they were being asked to advise on HIPAA, which was not their specialty, right? It's just to kind of tack on to more general, reviews of agreements. And then in 2012, I had an opportunity to leave and go into private practice at a law firm as an associate. So I worked as an associate at Dentons for several years, but during my time there, I think I was there maybe 2 months before I got a call from Walgreens and said, we want to hire you to do the privacy legal work for the company. So They were a client, and I did a lot of the privacy work, and in addition to a lot of other healthcare work at the firm. So I did transactional work, healthcare regulatory work. I actually did some tax-exempt bond finance work for healthcare systems as well. So I got some good experience there, but never left the privacy space. And in 2014. I got a call from the privacy officer at Walgreens at that time. And she said, I think we finally decided we need privacy lawyers, dedicated privacy lawyers at Walgreens. And I want you to come back and I want you to build out the function. And so it was really hard to leave the firm because I was really fortunate to have a great firm experience. But I liked being in-house. I liked being in-house. I liked being part of a team. And so I came back and I hired 2 lawyers, and we kind of started to build out what's that going to look like? How are privacy lawyers going to exist at Walgreens? How are they going to collaborate with the other commercial and subject matter expert attorneys at the company? And so I did that for a number of years, and then at the beginning of this year, my boss, the chief privacy officer, decided to leave and take an external opportunity. And she said, I think that you're the right fit for the chief privacy officer role. And honestly, I wasn't sure. I hadn't contemplated it. She was a great boss and I enjoyed what I did. And so I wasn't sure. But, I was fortunate enough to be asked to step into that role on a full-time basis. And it's been great. I have a wonderful team. I enjoy kind of getting to do the legal parts of it and the compliance parts of it and having that ownership and accountability for the program.
Well, congratulations. Very exciting to have such a big opportunity and such an extended role kind of intertwined between in-house and external and kind of coming back to the in-house side.
Yeah.
While you've been there, there's been a steady growth of privacy laws and the expansion of what health data even means. So curious if you can share, how has the privacy program adjusted to incorporate all these new definitions and requirements?
Right. Yeah. I think that actually fundamentally the most important thing and the thing that I think makes our program successful and our team feel successful is understanding the business. And really, not just, policies and procedures are important, to show that you understand the law and that you've got these foundational elements to comply. But really where it's at is figuring out how to make that mean something to your team members, right? So understanding that, the marketing team is going to be impacted differently by the privacy requirements than maybe the analytics team or the IT team, for example, right? That they are interested in different components and it impacts them differently, and trying to come up with not only just tailored training, but I think just building those relationships so that, when hopefully you're getting invited to a call, right? And there's a new program or there's something new that someone wants to do. And hopefully you're getting invited to that call so you know what's going on. But if you really done it right, they may even anticipate what you're going to say, right? Because you've been clear and you've kind of given them a sense of why does it matter to me? What are the things that we care about and why do we have to care about them? So yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It'll just keep growing. More fun.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, this, when we went from, everyone knew, because we're a hybrid covered entity under HIPAA. So we have this portion of our business that is a pharmacy and it's covered by HIPAA. And then you have kind of what we call the front of store, right? The retail business that's not covered by HIPAA. And so everyone, I think for a long time said, okay, we know PHI, that's the HIPAA data. We got to be really careful with that. We really can't use it for much, right? But everything else is kind of we're less worried about that. So it was this shift of okay, now you have to care about everything, right? Everything is basically regulated. And so you can't say, well, it's just, PII now. And in fact, like, we really can't be talking about PII. We're talking about PI, right? We're talking about personal information, which is more expansive than just the things that people came to just generally understand are going to have some level of protection, like name and address and email address. Now it's this, socializing this concept of that advertising ID that you thought, was anonymous for years and years is not anonymous. And you have to treat it differently, right? So, I think it was already tough when maybe someone new would come into the company, maybe they hadn't been, at a HIPAA regulated healthcare provider before, right? Understanding all of the regulation that sits around not just how you disclose that data, but how you use it internally. But then, layering on top, well, actually now all of the retail data is regulated too. So, basically everything you do, you have to really think about, what the things we say a lot is like, name is not name, right? So if the name came from the pharmacy, that is regulated by HIPAA. If it came from, a front of store loyalty purchase, that is not HIPAA. That is probably some state privacy law or FTC or something else. And so, trying to get people to think, think about the data that they have, understand the data province, and then what that means for them. That has been, it's an ongoing, training and retraining and just trying to make sure that we build those strong relationships with the business so that they want to include us, right? And so we want to be a partner and not just someone who says yes and no. And that we can, they can start to understand where we're coming from and kind of even feel like they know what we're going to say before we say it.
The definitions are so important. I talk to companies all the time. They still use PII, and we have the same exact conversation. And then my favorite one is I only have name and email, or name, email, and phone. I don't have any financial data. We don't have credit card data. We're fine. Or we don't have any health data. We're fine. And I say, well, congratulations. You just have less to worry about. But email actually counts all by itself. The definitions are incredibly important. There's a lot of education for people who don't do this all day long in all different parts of our organizations. And so to everyone listening, you cannot emphasize and explain definitions enough. Just keep on doing it.
Right. Or even just conceptualize them, right? It's like, I'm not going to write down a definition for you, but even just generally, right? Like, just about anything relating to a person is probably going to be regulated in some way, right? So, and if you think that you have de-identified it, that means something really specific, right? And you're in most cases, if that data is going to be helpful, you're not going to be able to label it de-identified by yourself. So you really are going to be having to seek counsel if you think you're going down that route as well.
So speaking of your retail business, it seems one of the things that retailers of all stripes are struggling with is a lot of shrinkage, people coming in, things getting stolen of that nature. And just would love to get your take if, for example, I'm a business person, I come in and I say, hey, Natalie, I have a great idea. We should just put cameras in all of our stores that might have facial recognition, and that ought to really put a dent in shrinkage. What might that conversation look like?
Sure. Yeah. We've always been an innovative company, right? We want to innovate. We want to use technology, in a very positive way. That said, like there is a lot of technology out there and with varying degrees of risk, right? So, it's not, the conversation usually starts with like, let me kind of look under the hood, right? Like what kind of technology do you want to use? Let's see how we really categorize it, right? I think there's a lot of vendors out there who will say, oh, no, this is not biometric data, no worries, right? And then we'll look at it and we'll say, well, I think a lot of courts might, disagree with you, right? Or I don't think it's going to be so clear. I think this is something that could give you risk from a litigation perspective, right? So, it really is a matter of understanding what is the goal, right? Reducing shrink and keeping employees and customers safe is really important. But you really have to understand, well, does the technology do that, right? How well do we think the technology will actually solve the problem? And then how risky is the technology? There are, like I said, there are a lot of varying degrees, even within the same type of products and how they do things, I think that have different levels of risk, right? There are certainly different ways to capture data that are going to either have a greater or less likelihood of kind of triggering those state biometric privacy laws. And so I think that it's always an open conversation, of course, like, yes, we it's important. We know as a company, we want to keep people safe and we want to reduce shrink. But let's look at it. Let's see how it actually works. What type of safeguards we could put in place, and if it's feasible or not.
Did you have a follow-up? Looked like you were about to say something.
I just had a follow-up question. Like, when you are asked to look at all these different technologies that could implicate biometric data, other types of things, how far does the conversation get where some salesperson or other non-lawyer saying, we think this is not biometric data, before it lands on your desk to say, I looked at this and don't quite disagree or don't quite agree with that?
I don't really think too far. I think that it goes back to that concept of like making sure you have those relationships and people know what the risks are, right? It's part of our job as privacy professionals to educate the business and know like what's out there, what's happening, where the movement in the industry is and where the risk is. And so, I think that we maybe even sometimes get to that conversation, right, with a vendor and, because that makes everyone feel better. But, sometimes we can just see from the documentation, like this is going to be a problem. But giving them an opportunity to respond, we'll certainly always do that. But, I think that those type of conversations can be a bit tough with the vendor. But I think also, like, if they don't really have a leg to stand on, it can be pretty self-evident to the business. And
I think what you've been sharing is reflective. This is hard work that involves conversations. And so many times people are trying to automate as much as possible. And they might be trying to automate things in the business. When it comes to these privacy, risk, compliance evaluations, it takes conversation. It takes time to ask questions, gather information. And I think that's one of the pieces I hear people might forget. They're trying to kind of get straight to the answer as quickly and as simply as possible and answer this form. But actually, it takes this time, this collaboration between probably multiple stakeholders, potentially multiple rounds of conversation to be able to get to a place, whether it's a yay, a nay, or in the middle.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. And I think that, a lot of times, or even just historically, right? I think a business owner is trying to solve a problem and they get a vendor that says, I can solve your problem. And they don't want to have to understand like how the sausage is made. They want to just say, like, okay, great. They said they can do this. I've got the budget to do it. Like, can we just do the thing? And there's more of there's more obligations on that business owner to not just solve the problem, but to understand how the problem is going to be solved and to be able to help push to get the information that we need to really assess what the risk is, right? Maybe, there's been certain times where I've thought, well, there's no way this is going to work. And then we start kind of pulling through all the facts and we go, wow, like this vendor really has done something unique, or, they've really considered all these key issues and it's a lot, it's not as concerning as I initially thought. So you really, vendors are going to kind of dress things up to, solve a business need, but really like, have they put in the time to think about what the risk is and if they've addressed that for the user, I think is pretty critical.
For someone maybe just starting to build a program, or maybe they have a smaller program, what would you tell them? What advice might you offer?
Just in general?
In general.
Yeah. I really think it is making sure you have those relationships, at your executive level, that they understand, what you're trying to do and why it's important. I mean, if you don't have the buy-in from your leadership, it's not gonna, that message is not gonna be pushed down. You're gonna have a hard time getting people to care, right? People want to understand the why, right? Like, I don't want to just blindly do this thing you told me to, tell me why I should care, right? And, good or bad, there are a lot of examples, in the news and in the media about why you should care, right? Like whether it's a data breach, or it's an, FTC investigation, or it's, litigation. Unfortunately, a lot of privacy has been at the forefront of a lot of the media for various reasons. And I think bringing through some of those examples and telling them, why they should care, and really how that, helping to build that strong privacy program could really reduce risk. And I think, make sure you're telling a good story also from a public perception perspective as well, right? That you can show that you thought about it and you understood it and you really worked hard, because you're never going to get it perfect. But if you can show that you thoughtfully came out with a plan and you executed, and whether that, fails or succeeds, if you at least had a good plan, right, you're at least going to have a good story, I think, for a regulator, and that you can be more open to working and solving problems from that jumping off point.
Good advice. Thank you for offering.
So kind of honing in on that a little bit more, but what is your philosophy on building a strong privacy culture within a larger organization, such as a Walgreens?
Yeah. I really think it is, you have to find a way to show value, right? Like that, you've got to get yourself in the room first, right? You have to be invited to the meetings where people are discussing what it is that they want to do. And you have to want people to want you there, which means you can't show up and not say anything. And you also, can't show up and just say yes or no. You really have to be. We talk a lot about at Walgreens about, being a part of the business and solving problems and working together. And really, it sounds so simplistic, but it really, I think, is true, is you have to figure out what are we trying to do? What might the privacy problem be? And what are some ways in which I think we could either execute or modify whatever it is that we're trying to do in such a way that would reduce risk. And a lot of that too is knowing who the other key stakeholders are, whether that be, IT, or whether that be other legal counterparts, and figuring out, like, if I know that my pharmacy law counterpart is going to have an issue with something that's happening, it doesn't help the team, if I just say, my part's good, right? And tell them, well, I think we're going to pull in pharmacy law. We'll have a conversation. We'll talk about like what they need and what I need, and maybe how we come up with a solution that would work for the business, right? So I think really just figuring out how the business works, all the people you need, issue spotting, of course, and figuring out how you can put together some options that we think will reduce risk.
Now, we talked about the business wanting cool new technology. Privacy people are also looking at a variety of different technologies with privacy enhancing technologies and privacy emerging technologies. Are there any that you're excited about?
Gosh, I don't know. I don't have a really good answer for that. I think that we look a lot to technology that is going to make us more efficient, right? Can we do some, robotic processing? Can we use bots to, identify certain trending or issues for us? How can we streamline things? I think that's where our focus is at. I mean, I certainly think that, especially when you're talking AI and reduction of risk, certainly privacy enhancing technologies are a component of it. But, I think more often than not, we're focused on technology that is trying to make us more efficient, trying to identify patterns or, things that we know may be high risk or that we want to an actual set of eyes on, and kind of freeing up the time for our team to be able to kind of be hands-on with the things that matter most.
Have you demoed for your team any of the AI tools that are a little more specific to legal or privacy, like Harvey, or I know there's like a in-house counsel specific AI? Any experience or initial reactions to any of those?
I haven't. As a greater legal division, we are, certainly committed to looking at tools. I think we always talk about, do we have the right tools to do our job and to do it the most efficiently? So I think that's something that's on our roadmap, but we haven't specifically looked at any of them yet.
So knowing what you know, we always ask everyone, what is your best personal privacy tip you might share at a party?
Personal privacy tip. Maybe I guess, we also often talk about, people love to talk about, oh my gosh, I just talked about this and now I'm seeing an ad for it, or, why am I seeing this ad or that ad? So it's always kind of fun to talk to people about, tags and pixels and how they work. And, certainly the old, household IDs, right? Like, be careful what you're searching for, especially in Christmas. If you're searching for something for your husband, it's more than likely that he could figure it out, right? Like, I know I've said to my husband before, like, are you shopping for X for me? Because I didn't look at that and it's my feed. And I'm guessing I'm getting it because you were looking at it and we've got the same household ID tied to ourselves. So, your browsing and things probably aren't as secretive as you think they are. And so if you're okay with that, great. If not, right, there's tools out there to try to help reduce some of that, right? You could do GPS or DuckDuckGo or some of those various types of tools, right, to help yourself gain some anonymity. But I don't know, things like that.
That is an excellent tip, because it is, you can give your items away, especially if you share an Amazon in the same laptop, and you're buying for kids, and the kids might hop on. They might know what you're doing,
right? Yes.
So when you're not advising on privacy matters, what do you like to do for fun?
Oh gosh. When I'm not advising on privacy matters, I'm probably at one of my kids' sporting events. I'm coaching my daughter's first grade basketball team, which has been a lot of fun. Both my kids are super active in sports. So I'm probably on a sideline somewhere, whether it be basketball, football, baseball, or some tumbling mats. That's probably where you'll find me. Yeah.
Coach Justin, do you have any advice for Coach Natalie?
Dealing with kids today?
No, basketball. You were a basketball coach
for many years. Just have a lot of patience, and you have to be tough at the beginning. You can be nicer later, but if you're not tough at the beginning, they'll run all over you.
Right. The number of cartwheels that happen at a first grade girls basketball practice is just clear. We just embrace it,
Well, Natalie, we're so glad that you joined us. If people would like to connect, where's the best place for them to do so?
Sure. Certainly, I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to shoot me a message on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way.
Amazing. Well, Natalie, we're really grateful that you came today to share with us a little bit about the health universe and privacy and cartwheels on the basketball court. So thank you.
Yeah, sure. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes and check us out on LinkedIn. See you next time.